This is my apology to BlackPatriot. Some time ago, I posted a response video saying that I didn't think the police were going to be the biggest threat out there. Here's the thing about it. Recent events in my life, things that I've seen recently, things I understand a little bit better now. Sorry, you were right. In fact, to be honest with you, my feelings are a great deal different. I feel that the police are a threat to society now. You don't even have to give these guys without rule of law, shit hits the fan situation. They're already there's a lot of issues here. I'm going to break this down to what I'm talking about in three major forms. This goes into reinforcing your statement. I'm just going to put it a little bit differently, bring up some finer points, and yeah, you were right. Number one, the weapons, tactics, stuff like that. Their tactics suck. I was in the army. I've done the room clearing, mount military operations in urbanized terrain type of tactical training. I've watched SWAT teams on TV do the same thing, and I've played paintball with a couple of police officers, and my paintball team was made up of veterans, and we rocked. Part of the issue with room clearing, stuff like that, is they're not training to actively engage people with similar tactics and similar training. That's why in the Sierra's police shooting, in 4-on-1 odds, the cops died. In fact, if that same individual who I shun, I really don't want to call him a Marine since he broke the law, but screw it. That Marine who killed that police officer and injured the other two, if he had actually applied the tactics that he knew and was taught in his military training to that situation, or had a couple of extra magazines with him, he could have killed 4 police officers, not just one, and he could have done so remarkably easy compared to what other people think. People without tactics and that training in the tactics and stuff like that, yeah, you have no clue. The other issue is this. We live in a society that has declared a war on crime, a war on drugs, a war on terrorism. Here's the problem. When you start putting people in uniform and telling them it's a us versus them situation, that it's us in uniform against these guys not in a uniform, or these guys in this other uniform, you might as well just break it down and be like, I hate that guy over there because he's black, or I hate that dude over there because he's Mexican, or whatever, because you're still creating that us versus them generalization. A person accused of a crime, 9 times out of 10, their civil rights get violated anyway. A lot of times, cops fabricate information or happen to lose evidence, which could prove their innocence. The legal term for this is exculpatory evidence. The reason, and a lot of this happens because they're in uniform. They're trained that you, as the criminal, or you more specifically as the suspected criminal, are the enemy. And when you declare someone else the enemy, well, other than the fact that that other person runs the potential of declaring you the enemy in return, you tend to not really give a shit. They're the enemy. All their hurt, all their suffering, all their this, it doesn't matter. They're the enemy. Oh, you violated their civil rights, you did this, you did that, it doesn't matter. They're the enemy. So the problem is that, and then you come into this other problem of good cops versus bad cops. Let me go into saying this. As far as I'm concerned, all cops are bad cops. I don't give a shit. I don't care if you've never violated somebody's civil rights. I don't care if you've never beaten somebody down. I don't care if you've never planted evidence on somebody. The problem is, chances are, I'm willing to bet you know someone who has. If you didn't speak up, or at least if you outrank them, exercise your right to physically detain them, arrest them for committing a crime in front of you, report it to your superiors, and not just let the chain of command slide it under the rug, but actually pursue them for the crimes they committed, you're no different than them. I'm sorry. I'm a big fan of that Edmund Burke saying of all that it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. If you call yourself a good man, then step up and do your job. Not just, get a paycheck, but actually step up, be a man, be a shield for the community, which is what that badge is supposed to represent. It's supposed to represent that position you took as being a shield and protecting your community. Uh, it's not easy. It sucks. It's painful a lot of times. It's a lonely, dangerous place because when you actually become that shield, you really can't attack back. You can defend yourself, but you're not going on the offensive, and it's easier to go on the offensive than it is to defend, which is where a lot of these problems come in at. And the problem is too that you have all this camaraderie and they're all the Brotherhood of Blue or whatever bullshit you want to call it. And here's what happens: Cop A's dirty. Cop A plants evidence on suspect A. Cop B knows about it. Cop B doesn't do anything because Cop A's his buddy and he doesn't want to, mess with the Brotherhood of the Badge or whatever kind of propaganda they want to give you. And so there's no such thing as a good cop. There's just guys in uniform trying to enforce laws that may or may not matter. And if you're a criminal or you're a suspected criminal or you've ever been convicted of a crime, whether you did it or not, you're seen as the enemy. And, I'm sorry, but let's deal with reality, the escalation of violence, and everything else that we've seen in our world. All right. When you declare war, a war on crime, guess what? Criminals started picking up guns. Criminals started sending friends and family into the military so they could come back with those tactics. When you declare a war on something, there's an escalation of arms. There's an escalation of tactics and manpower and weaponry and all this other stuff that comes into play. And when you keep doing that, you create something beyond what you understand. And I know everybody's going to, look at the Depression and Al Capone and, guys like Billy the Kid and Jesse James and, what was another good one I should name? Oh, yeah, John Dillinger. Well, here's the problem. All these guys were military men. They were trained for combat. They seen the government as the enemy. In the case of Billy the Kid and Jesse James, they were Confederate skirmishers, which means they were trained primarily in using guerrilla hit and run tactics. Came out real handy when robbing a bank. John Dillinger, say what you want, fine, he was a bank robber. But he was damn near a folk hero too, considering, it was a widely known fact that he would rob the bank, take hostages, never harm the hostages, on top of the fact that, there's that one occasion when the guy pulls out money and hands it to him. And John Dillinger says, no, I'm not here to take your money. I'm here to take the banks. Well, the banks at the time were just now becoming FDIC insured. And ironically and rather hilariously enough, it was another situation, another bank bailout, what we're seeing now. What we're seeing now is is a big precursor to what happened during the First Depression. So it leads a lot of people, myself included, into thinking we might have a second or a third depression coming along. This so-called recession, well, wasn't quite a depression, but it is damn near close. Now, when you start talking about that whole situation, you also go into the Balkan Model. During the Soviet invasion of the Balkan states, a lot of police officers, a lot of National Guard units sided up with gangs and criminal cartels, and they basically created the equivalent of like European super mafias. You had police, military training mixed in with criminals and everything else so they could resist the Russians. Well, here in the U.S., there's a good possibility for that to happen, except it might not be the Russians. It might not be states breaking away against the Russians. It might be states breaking away against the U.S. And then you have, the U.S. military coming in. That whole thing about insurrection that's in the Constitution about, the purpose of the army being to repel invasion or keep down insurrections. So, right now, to be honest with you, I agree with you, BlackPatriot. In fact, I think in a without rule of law scenario, a lot of these gangs, which are already attached to police officers, which already informers for police officers and helping cops and everything else, are going to become manpower, and they're just basically going to become your on the ground grunts while these cops are acting or pretty much operating like more elite commando units to spearhead operations, and they're going to be running everything through command and control networks similar to a paramilitary structure. They already have this where you have gangs that have a paramilitary structure, and then you have certain leaders in the gangs, certain members of the gangs who are informants for the police. Even in my local area, there's a few known informants to the police who are also leaders in local gangs. The cops look the other way when they're selling drugs. The cops look the other way when they're shooting at people. The cops look the other way, when they're jumping people and doing all this other stuff. In one case, a friend of mine's car was stolen. As easy it would have been to make sure that the check to see if the car was stolen. All the thing the cop had to do was compare the DMV title from where my friend had bought the car to the title where the guy who stole it forged his signature and claims that it was sold to him. Now, if the signatures don't match up, the cop can be like, okay, there's grounds for an investigation. I need to ask you questions, blah, blah, blah. Lock the car up in the impound and see where it gets you. In the meantime, what ends up happening is the cop doesn't do anything about it. Oh, we can't do anything. He signed a title. Well, there's no comparison of the signatures, no attempt at an investigation. Just, oh, we can't do anything. Simply because this person happens to be an informant for the police. And that was something we suspected. I went up to the local magistrate court, got on the clerk's computer so you can research public records that they have for people to come in and research public records. Lo and behold, what do I find? This guy had was involved in five different court cases. He had 5 different court cases against him. 3 out of the 5 were felonies: burglary, assault, bunch of stuff. Magically enough, it says up there that these court cases were dismissed due to a plea bargain with the state of West Virginia, which is where I'm from. Now, it gets really funny because this guy's dad is in a biker gang, and this biker gang basically works as muscle for his dad and him, and they're going out setting people up and stealing and selling drugs and everything else as an informant for the police, but nothing gets done. I mean, this guy's even passing around counterfeit bills, but nothing gets done. When you talk about the police, oh yeah, we're looking for him, we're trying to get this guy, it's this, it's that, it's the other. But in reality, all they're doing is covering up the guy's mess. More important to the fact, he was arrested again, 3 felonies, and magically the arresting officer, whom his mother-in-law has bragged about being her buddy and will take care of her and protect everybody else, and he was the arresting officer. Magically, these charges get dismissed like days before he was to actually show up to court. On top of that, the only stuff he's actually pled guilty to has been like little petty misdemeanors. So it makes you wonder about how this guy's getting away with stuff. Another situation, an ex-girlfriend, actually ex-fiance of mine, her ex-boyfriend, who I found out was an informant for the police, gets popped with 5 AKs and body armor. Now, bear in mind, I live in Beckley, West Virginia. This isn't Compton. This isn't East LA or anything like that. And the fact that this guy gets popped with 5 AK-47s and body armor, all of which was illegal. He was charged with this stuff and everything else. He even called my ex, and I was there talking about, oh, I'm going to jail, and they're gonna lock me up, and the guns were stolen, and da 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 da, and all this other stuff. Magically enough, a month later, it's like, oh well, what? There was a mistake. The guns really weren't stolen. It didn't come up on the NCICS. It was a mistake that came up on the NCICS that they were stolen, and we're sorry. We dismissed the charges, and you walk away. So the problem, I don't think, is that the cops in a without rule of law situation will be your biggest threat. I think the network that the police already have established with known criminals will be your biggest threat. But either way, I do agree with you 100%. I am very sorry for even disagreeing with you or putting up the video to disagree with you on that, BlackPatriot. And yeah, sorry.